My niece mouthed, "We don't sit with people like you," while everyone laughed. I shrugged, took my son's hand, and walked out. Dad pinged, "Payment tomorrow, right?" Or typed back, "Not my problem." The next day brought a single message that turned their laughter into panic. Full story. The gathering was at his father's house, the way it always was on the third Sunday of the month. The same tablecloth, the same too loud television in the background, the same arrangement of people who had known each other so long, they had stopped being curious about one another. Marcus brought his son, Dion, the way he always did. Dion was 7, old enough to read a room, young enough to still believe that rooms wanted to be read correctly. They sat near the end of the table, the two of them, which was not unusual. There had always been an unspoken geography to these dinners. Certain seats belonged to certain people. Marcus had never disputed this. He simply found his place, and sat in it. His niece Brianna was 23, and had recently begun to carry herself with the confidence of someone who had just been told she was right about everything. She sat 3 seats down, between her mother and the cousin who laughed at everything. Brianna said before she finished saying it. Marcus was reaching for the bread when he heard it. Not a shout, a murmur, aimed at Dion, who had leaned across the table to ask for the butter. Brianna's mouth barely moved, but the words traveled. "We don't sit with people like you." Dion went still. The cousin laughed first, then the aunt. Then a general ripple of amusement passed through the near end of the table, the kind that doesn't need to understand the joke to participate in it. Marcus set the bread down. He looked at his son, who was still holding his hand out toward the butter dish, caught mid-motion, expression recalibrating in real time. Marcus had watched this happen before, the moment a child updates their understanding of a room. It was never easy to witness. He did not ask anyone to explain themselves. He said, "Come on." Dion lowered his hand. He slid off his chair. He took his father's hand, and they walked out while the food was still hot and the laughter was still settling. The drive home was quiet for the first 6 minutes. Then Dion said, "What kind of people are we?" Marcus thought about it. The kind that left. Dion seemed to find this acceptable. He looked out the window for a while. Then he asked if they could stop for food because he was still hungry. They stopped. They ate in a booth by the window. It was, by most measures, a better meal. Marcus had been sending money to his father's account for 4 years, not dramatically, not as a loan with terms attached. His father's pension had a gap in it, and Marcus had the means, and so the transfer happened every month, the way certain things happen when you are the child who stayed capable, and the parent who stayed proud, quietly, without paperwork, without gratitude formally expressed. His father's message arrived at 9:14 that evening. "Payment tomorrow, right?" Marcus read it standing in the kitchen, while Dion brushed his teeth upstairs. He considered the message for longer than it deserved. Then he typed, "Not my problem." He sent it before he could revise it into something softer. He put the phone face down on the counter. He went upstairs and read to his son until Dion fell asleep mid-chapter, which was the best possible outcome for a Sunday night. The calls began Tuesday. His aunt called and said his father was worried. His cousin called and said the family was concerned. Brianna did not call, which was the only response Marcus found honest. He answered 2 of the calls. He kept both short. He was not unkind. He simply had nothing new to offer. What he had not anticipated was his father's next move. His older brother Jerome co-owned the logistics company where Marcus worked. They had built it together over 9 years. Jerome had not been at the Sunday dinner. He had a standing conflict, a standing anything that got him out of the third Sunday gathering, and Marcus had long respected him for that instinct. Jerome called Wednesday morning. "Dad called me," he said. "I figured." He said, "You're withholding money over a family disagreement." Marcus told him what happened. All of it. Brianna's words, Dion's face, the laughter that followed, the drive home, the butter dish, no one passed. He told it without escalation or performance. Jerome listened without interrupting. When Marcus finished, Jerome was quiet for a moment. "I'll call him," Jerome said. Marcus didn't ask what he planned to say. It wasn't his conversation to script. Thursday morning, a message arrived from Brianna. I didn't think he'd hear it. No punctuation, no follow-up. Just that sentence floating there like something that had been thrown and immediately regretted. Marcus read it once. He understood it completely. She wasn't apologizing for what she'd said. She was apologizing for the radius of its consequences. These were different things. He did not respond. He set his phone on the desk and opened his laptop and began the first meeting of his day. Dion asked about his grandfather's house on Friday morning between spoonfuls of cereal. Are we going back soon? I don't know yet, Marcus said. Dion nodded, took another bite. The question seemed to have satisfied something in him. Not the answer, but the fact that his father had given him a real one instead of a managed one. Children notice this distinction earlier than adults expect. That afternoon, Marcus logged into his bank account and adjusted the recurring transfer. He removed his father's account from the schedule. He created a new one, his son's sound savings account, the same amount, set to repeat monthly. It took 4 minutes. There was no ceremony to it. He closed the browser and went back to his work. Somewhere across the city, he assumed, people were still discussing what he should have done differently. He found, to his own mild surprise, that he had no strong feelings about their conclusions. The laughter from Sunday was already distant, not gone, but smaller, the way sounds get when you move far enough away from their source that they can no longer reach you without effort. He let it stay at that distance. He did not move toward it.